Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. Now, Ukraine has announced that the first shipment of grain is expected to leave its Black Sea ports within days. And to ensure the security of the ships and their cargo, a joint coordination center has opened in Istanbul. The center will be manned by officials from Türkiye, Russia, Ukraine, and the UN, who will monitor ships carrying the grain from Odessa and two other Black Sea ports. Vessels returning to Ukraine will be inspected in Turkish waters to ensure there are no smuggled weapons on board. Some 25 million tons of grain from Ukraine are expected to be exported to the rest of the world. Melinda Newsfeed has more.
Whenever we talk about grain and the conflict in Ukraine, you're of course going to get a large media contingent, and today in Istanbul is no different. We're at the opening of the Joint Coordination Center at the National Military University. It may not look like much. When you look around this room, there are monitors and some computers, but when you consider what will be happening in this room, you realize just how important this facility is. It's going to be the beating heart of the Ukrainian grain deal. There's a monitor there that you can see. This is going to be where satellites track all the merchant ships that are coming and going through the Turkish Straits and into the Black Sea. Now, of course, when you talk about grain, we are also considering a global food security crisis, and that's why it is always making so many waves and trending so strongly on social media. The World Food Programme put out a tweet showing just how important this grain deal is to global food security. It says that 10 times more people today are struggling to survive in famine-like conditions than 5 years ago. So everything happening here in this joint cooperation and command center is going to effectively alleviate those global food concerns.
Russia has announced it's quitting the International Space Station after 2024. The new head of the nation's space program, Roscosmos, Yuri Borisov, relayed the news to Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday.
The first piece of the ISS was originally launched in 1998, and the initial segment was funded by the US but built and launched by Russia. Coming just 7 years after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the historic launch marked the beginning of a multi-decade partnership between the once bitter Cold War rivals.
And that TikToker had a point. Russia and the US have been operating the ISS as a joint effort since its first launch in 1988. Since then, the space station has been the solid glue uniting the two countries, despite all their differences down here on Earth. Let's say Russia does follow up on its word and quits the ISS. What exactly would that mean? Well, it would actually put the existence of the entire station at risk because it's designed in a way that makes both the American and Russian parts essential to operations. Electricity is provided by the American portion of the station, and the Russians are in control of the propulsion system. So without one or the other, the ISS can't really function. Plus, the countries just announced a new project where astronauts from both nations can fly up on each other's spacecraft. Now, it would be fair to say the US is taken aback and disappointed with the news.
It's an unfortunate development given the critical scientific work performed at the ISS, the valuable professional collaboration our space agencies have had over the years, and especially in light of our renewed agreement on spaceflight cooperation.
Ned Price also pointed out that NASA could actually explain the whole quitting process. But the thing is, NASA hasn't received a formal notice from its Russian counterparts. In fact, Roscosmos only needs to give written notice 1 year before leaving. And Borisov didn't specify the date. The Russian Space Agency's head just said after 2024, which is more than a year away. And netizens aren't entirely convinced that Russia will truly leave the station. Aerospace engineer and space reporter Thomas Burkhardt says Russia's declaration could also be more empty threats that won't come true like the ones it's been making for months. And senior space policy advisor of the NGO Planetary Society, Casey Dreyer, says, is Russia leaving the ISS the new water found on Mars headline? We've seen this story many times before. Color me skeptical of any immediate changes. Now it feels like Russia is being deliberately vague about the whole thing. It says the date it'll officially leave the ISS and start operating its own space station would overlap. But just to give you some idea of a time frame, well, the ISS took 10 years and over 30 missions to assemble. Of course, technology has advanced since then, but accomplishing a decade of work in just 2 years seems unlikely. Plus, a new station doesn't come cheap. The ISS now has accumulated a cost of over $150 billion for its partners. So now the question is, how will the Kremlin finance such an expense with an ongoing conflict in Ukraine and while sanctions continue to bite? After 2 years of lockdowns and travel restrictions, finally we're free to travel and take that well-earned holiday. But summer travel is not turning out to be that easy or as smooth as you'd expect. In fact, it's turning into misery for tens of thousands of holidaymakers. This is how some airports are looking. Lost luggage that didn't make it to their destination, painfully long queues at security, stranded passengers due to canceled or delayed flights. Absolute chaos, to say the least. Now, during the pandemic, the air travel industry took a huge hit with planes grounded and airports closed. So the airports and airlines laid off staff. But when the green light was given for flights to resume, they weren't quick enough to employ enough staff. Many employees that were laid off had found other work or didn't want to return. And the security checks and training for new recruits is just adding to the delay to get those staff numbers back up to a level so your trip can run smoothly. Just to show you how serious the problem is, take a look at these stats. In the past month, over 50% of all scheduled flights were delayed from Toronto's international airport. And in Europe, Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, and London all had over 40% of flights delayed. The situation was made even worse in Germany on Wednesday as Lufthansa staff went on strike, forcing the cancellation of over 1,000 flights. Sibel reports from Berlin's Brandenburg Airport.
Empty counters and cancelled flights. That's what Lufthansa passengers are facing across Germany. Ground staff of the flagship carrier is on a one-day strike, demanding a 9.5% pay rise for more than 20,000 workers to keep up with soaring inflation. But that's only adding to a summer of travel chaos across Europe. More than 1,000 flights have been cancelled across the country, affecting holiday plans of more than 130,000 passengers. For some, it's only adding to their frustration, but for others, it's a benefit. One passenger says her connecting flight to the US has been cancelled, and she's now stuck at a terminal in Frankfurt until Friday, as she doesn't have a German visa that would allow her to leave it. Another angry traveler will have to exercise patience as he wanted to finally see his girlfriend after a year of separation. One Twitter user, however, says, "Don't be mad at Lufthansa staff who have justified demands, but at those who refuse to fulfill them." And other stranded passengers are grateful for another day of holiday.
So as a person of color, I find that sometimes I face extra scrutiny from immigration officials at some international airports. And it's not just a me thing. This is a common issue worldwide for many people of color. There are even hashtags netizens use to talk about their experiences while traveling. There's the hashtag flying while brown and also flying while black. And these hashtags are gaining traction once again online. Now that's after airport officials in Geneva almost refused to allow the head of the joint UN program on HIV/AIDS to board her flight. Now Winnie Byanyima, who is from Uganda, tweeted that her travel documents were scrutinized over and over again. Phone calls were made until finally she was allowed to board her flight to Montreal for an AIDS conference. The UN AIDS head also pointed out that hundreds of experts and scientists from the global south were denied visas to attend the conference in Canada. In the lead up to the event, health experts who'd been denied visas expressed their frustrations. Tanaka Chirombo, one of the summit's youth representatives from Malawi, explained how he forked out over thousands of dollars to get a passport, apply for a visa, and buy a plane ticket, only to have his application denied. The letter he got back from the Canadian government said it wasn't satisfied he'd leave Canada at the end of his trip based on his personal assets, financial status, the purpose of his visit, and current employment situation. Of course, the situation has drawn outrage among medical professionals. Boston-based oncologist Dio Fidelu tweets, "There needs to be a reevaluation of hosting locations for global medical conferences, since you can't have true equity in global research when Africans and Asians face discriminatory visa policies." Ruben Womboy, the Africa regional lead at the UN Environment Program, says it's a tragedy and at the same time ridiculous that 100 non-whites were denied visas to attend the UN AIDS 2022 conference. And it's crazy Winnie Byanyima had to go through such scrutiny at the airport when she's the global head of UN AIDS. While reporter Osasu Obayuwana tweets that Canada shouldn't have hosted the summit if it wasn't ready to host the world. He tweets if the UN AIDS chief had issues traveling, he can only imagine what other people from Africa and Asia face. Black netizens have been sharing their negative experiences while traveling using the hashtag #FlyingWhileBlack.
So I got Quad S on my boarding pass, and I knew this flight was going to be a flight from hell. Quad S means you go through like extra security screening. They check everything. So after that, I'm escorted to the plane.
So here's me and my parents. As you can see, my dad, black, yup. And then my mom, she's white passing. Last time we flew together was to go to my cousin's wedding in Spain. My dad didn't go. It was just me and her. Every checkpoint that we had to go through, I was swabbed down for gunpowder residue every time. And my mom never got stopped. And she was like, "This is my daughter. We're going to this." They were like, "Sorry, ma'am. Just me."
I was getting off the train and this older woman next to me kind of grabs my hand and pulls me down close to her. And she says, "Honey, please be very careful in Naples. This place is not safe for you." And I was like, whoa, that was really crazy to me. And the thing is that I've been to Naples before, so I already know.
I wasn't allowed on Southwest Airlines at Denver International Airport because he didn't like my attitude.
He can't even look me in the eye. That's crazy.
That's because I'm taking you off this flight.
You're not taking us off the flight. We paid for this flight.
Is Instagram headed straight to social media purgatory? Well, many people seem to think so after the release of an update to the platform. Netizens say they want photos of their friends on their feeds, not reels from random people. Their concern has led to the point where the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, has come out to address the problem again.
If you're seeing a new full-screen version of a feed, or you're hearing about it, know that that is a test. It's a test to a few percentage of people out there, and the idea is that a more full-screen experience, not only for videos but for photos, might be a more fun, engaging experience. But I also want to be clear, it's not yet good, and we're going to have to get it to a good place if we're going to ship it to the rest of the Instagram community. The second thing I'm hearing a lot of concerns about right now are photos and how we're shifting to video. Now, I want to be clear. We're going to continue to support photos. It's part of our heritage. I love photos. I know a lot of you out there love photos too. That said, I need to be honest. I do believe that more and more of Instagram is going to become video over time. We see this even if we change nothing. We see this even if you just look at chronological feed. If you look at what people share on Instagram, that's shifting more and more to videos over time. If you look at what people like and consume and view on Instagram, that's also shifting more and more to video over time, even when we stop changing anything. So we're going to have to lean into that shift while continuing to support photos.
Clearly, Instagram is chasing TikTok, and Meta is aggressively pushing videos to an audience that just doesn't want them. But some netizens, like Julia here, believe that it's because the design is influencing our behavior. When users can't find other content on the platform, they have to look at what they're served or leave the app completely. Why not end this episode making cat people horrified? Well, the Polish Academy of Sciences has classified domestic cats as an invasive alien species. Why? Well, because they're affecting birds and other wildlife, apparently. Biologist Wojciech Solars argues that felines are bad for biodiversity and that they kill around 140 million birds every year in Poland alone. So he's concluded you might actually be living with an alien or two. Solars says the public outcry in defense of cats has been unjust. The Institute published its announcement saying it was against cruelty to all animals and that the classification was in line with European Union guidelines. Right, have fun playing hide and seek with your furry pet alien, guys. And that wraps up this episode of Newsfeed. If you have any thoughts on our show, do visit our YouTube channel and leave your opinions, ideas, and feedback in our comments section. See you same time tomorrow.